Apyayantu mamangani Vakpranaschakshushrotramatho balamindriyani cha sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarot Anirakaranamastvanirakaranam me astu Tadatmani nirateya upanishatsu dharmaha te mayi santu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. This is the 55th class on Chāndogya Upanishad. We have come a long way. We took some selected mantras from the first 5 chapters, and then with regard to the 6th, 7th, and now the 8th chapter, we have taken a look at every section, every khanda. The 6th chapter had as its main central topic the brilliant discussion between Father Uddalaka and the son Shvetaketu, and the Mahavakya Tattvamasi appeared 9 times with different illustrations or methods of thought development. The 7th chapter was another fascinating Vedanta dialogue between Sanat Kumara, young Rishi, an illumined sage, and Narada, a great scholar and no doubt very pious person, but was not yet illumined. Called Bhuma Vidya, the 7th chapter had so much to reveal, and any student would get a lot of clarity on Brahma Vidya through the 7th chapter alone also. Then we take up the 8th chapter, we took up rather, and in the 8th chapter, starting from the 7th khanda, it was the interaction between Guru, who is Prajapati, and 2 disciples, Virochana and Indra. Virochana being too body identified, too materialistic in his outlook, listened to a little bit of spiritual instruction, misunderstood it, but without thinking twice, went back to his subjects. Virochana was the king of Asuras, the demons, and he said to them, pointing to his own body, "This is the ultimate truth. I welcome all of you to worship this body of mine." Most ridiculous. But as I had said in those lectures, most of us also are simply very foolish. Our position also is ridiculous, for we too consider our body to be unquestionably true. Our life also revolves around our body, though we may not go and tell somebody this body is Brahman. We may not use those words, but the kind of unquestioning allegiance that we have towards the physical body is hardly less than the problem Virochana had. Then there was the second student, Indra, who was very sattvic in his temperament. He too committed the same error in the beginning to imagine his own body was the ultimate truth, but before even he reached home to give that message to his followers, his citizens, his subjects, namely Suras, that is gods, Devatas, he came back to Prajapati. And several times he had to take new instructions, go deeper into the topic, and then he got realization of the truth. After that, in the last 2 or 3 classes, we have been seeing some additional topics. Chāndogya Upanishad as a whole and the 8th chapter in particular draws to a close with important, valuable instructions or further revelations. We have, for example, the 13th Khanda, which we saw last time, a powerful meditation, a great tool for japa, which involves an auto-suggestion, biofeedback, you may call it. We say to ourselves, we affirm in the light of Vedanta study, of course, how we do have the potential to rise from this limited jiva bhava to unimaginable heights of spiritual realization. Shamat shabalam prapadye, shabalat shamam prapadye, ashvaiva romani vidhuya papam. We can just discard, dismiss, throw away our sinful tendencies, regrets over the sin we might have committed. We can dismiss it all by this powerful meditation. And just as a horse shakes off its hair and both physically and mentally gets refreshed, you and I, through the Vedanta insights and certain amount of mature self-application, can rise and rise day after day to greater levels of consciousness. Just as the moon comes out of the clutches of Rahu during the lunar eclipse and after, we can actually come out of the false identification with the body. Now, in this 55th session, there is not much really that is new. However, it is all the same very valuable. In the 14th Khanda, the Upanishad says to us that one name of that supreme truth is Akasha. It is from Akasha that all names and forms arise, and all names and forms are in Akasha. Akasha can mean Brahma itself. Even if you take it as space, space and time then reside in Brahma. That is Brahma, that is Amrutam, says the 14th Khanda. Both 14th and 15th have only one mantra in each. Therefore, we will see both these Khandas and complete this Chāndogya Upanishad discourses. The 14th Khanda goes on to say further that in the light of clearer and clearer understanding of the Vedanta, I will now not look back. The seeker, the upasaka, the vidyarthi, or the jijnasu, or the mumukshu, call him as you may, call her as you like. The person who embarked upon the spiritual journey long ago and has come indeed a long distance, now says, I am now going to rise and rise. Therefore, we have made a little Title slide for this class with the English title, Aspire for the Highest. Let's take a look at the title slide at this moment. It is an aspiration. In 7th chapter also, by using words like asha or sankalpa and so on, the power of aspiration, power of desire, power of being clear about what we want was highlighted. This verse also is, or this mantra is about aspiring for the highest. We'll see the whole mantra in the second slide, but for now, as you see in this slide, Prajapatehe Sabham Prapatye. I shall enter, I shall get into the assembly, the hall of Prajapati, the supreme God. Or if you take Prajapati to mean Hiranyagarbha, either way, something way higher. It's like a brilliant student in a college, let's say in India, gets such inspiration. He enjoys the subject. He is able to go to the library and study advanced topics. If there are some journals, there are some latest discoveries reported in some magazines, and this brilliant student may be doing a 4 years engineering course, read something, what is new in artificial intelligence, what is new in neuroscience, what is new in some other subject, and not just superficially, she understands what is written in that article and what is more, what is possible further. And then out of that sheer inspiration, great clarity and great happiness in understanding her subject, this final year, final semester student is very sure that she will very soon do research in some very exalted institute abroad, Caltech, California Institute of Technology in Los Angeles, or maybe MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Boston, or maybe in Germany, maybe in France, maybe in the world there are some top ranking institutions. And how this girl, who is in a somewhat ordinary college, but luckily for her, maybe one or two teachers gave some good guidance, and there was a good library. She was able to see her own potential. So she would say, sitting quietly and studying something, I shall very soon enter MIT. I shall very soon be a student in Caltech, where dozens and dozens of Nobel laureates worked, and even now there are several Nobel laureates are faculty in these institutions, and I will be working there very soon. She is so clear. That was just a parallel, that was just an example. Coming back to Adhyatma Vidya, the sadhaka or sadhika says, Prajapate Sabham Veshma Prapadye. Sabha is hall, Veshma is the house. I belong to Brahmaloka. I am going to rise to higher levels of consciousness. Yashoham Bhavami. I wish to attain glory. Yashaha. And there are a couple of other words we will see in the next slide. But before that, here for this present title slide, Sahaham. Sahaham. Yashasam Yashaha Prapad. Yashasam Yashaha Bhavami. There are many kinds of glories. And I shall reach that glory, which is the glory of all glories. As in Hindi they say, in sabka baap hai wo. Baap means father. That means above all this. Every language has its own expression to indicate something way higher than a number of other things known to be great. And this one is greater than all these that are great. Yashasam yashaha bhavami. Yashasam yashaha prapadye. I wish to attain the highest of all glory. This is not to be misunderstood as some crazy, mad thinking of somebody who is unfit, who is unlikely to go to that height at all. The present context is somebody who began with Nishkama Karma and then went on to wonderful upasanas, then went further to pure Vedanta. Majority of humanity in this world are caught in Sakama Karma, desire prompted action. Even in desire prompted action, there are two categories. Some people may be pursuing their desire within the frame of dharma without compromising with morality. But one notch further below, there are lots of people who pursue their desires, not caring for ethics or morality or codes of conduct. So imagine, we have come a long way. There was a time when we too were slaves to our desires. Then some gurus came in our life. We began to live a more disciplined life. We came to Nishkama Karma. Then we came to Upasanas. In Upasanas, we got Chitta Shuddhi. More and more pure thoughts, noble thoughts. Ugly, vulgar thoughts took a backseat. And another word is used to imply the fruit of Upasana, that is Ekagrata. Ekagrata is a powerful word. It occurs to me that Ekagrata is not just in a given period of 5 or 10 minutes you concentrate on something very deeply. That is one dimension of Ekagrata, often translated as concentration. Another is stamina. You catch hold of a spiritual insight and stay with it day and night. Who am I? Who am I? Or you catch hold of a certain understanding of your intimate relation with Shiva. You are in Shiva. Shiva is in you. Shiva is everywhere. Shiva is in your breath. Shiva is in what moves, what does not move. Some inspiring insight. And what is ekagrata? What is stamina that comes to you through upasana? That inspiration stays with you. You stay with that inspiration day and night. Even if you have to attend some function because of some obligations, when all are talking worldly matter, you are still into that inspiring spiritual thought. You to take a drink, you to eat a sweet, you to go greet the people who need to be felicitated. If it's a marriage reception, you to go up the stage and compliment the young couple. But primarily, thanks to the upasana you have done, that party, that get together, that glitter and glamour, that music and dance do not cause any distraction to you. Right there in the marriage hall or reception hall, and after you come home, you are into higher contemplation. Such a person is to be imagined here. Such a person is saying here, who is truly fit. Sakama karma, nishkama karma, upasana, then jnana. Person has attended Vedanta lectures, and then one knows that even the division between sadhaka and siddhi is to be questioned. One is already free. The notion I am not free and I have to get free itself is questionable. The upasakas don't understand that. But those who have dived into jnana, those who have gone to deeper Vedanta study, realize that certain fundamental positions which we had taken all these days are not true. So such a person says, Yashoham bhavami, yashasam yashah bhavami. Or like that girl in the final semester of BE, feels so confident of going to great heights in her subject of choice. Sadhaka here is so confident, therefore it is something born of clarity. Let's go to the second slide where this entire mantra is given. Meanwhile, take a look at a little or some selected lines from Adi Shankara's commentary, which is especially relevant as I have to say a few things about this mantra proper. Let me see. Adi Shankara makes certain precious comments upon these two sections where we may not see anything very significant. Shankaracharya sees something that can be very helpful to all sadhakas. So here we are. So the mantra which is fully given in this slide, which is in its entirety, or it is the 14th section in its entirety. The whole 14th section is just this one mantra. Akasho vai nama, nama rupayoho, nirvahita, te yadantara tad brahma, tadamritam sa atma, prajapate sabham veshma prapadye, yashoham bhavami, brahmananam yasho bhavami, rajnam yasho bhavami, visham yasho bhavami, aham anuprapatsi, sahaham yashasam yashah bhavami. This is one part. Shetamadat, Shetamadattam, Adatkagam Shetam, Lindumabhigam, Lindumabhigam is this whole mantra. Now, we have to some extent explained what it is to aspire for the greatest fame, greatest name, not out of image consciousness, but it is certain self-actualization. It's not to impress people, but it is to celebrate one's own divinity. People recognize it or not is not important. But am I clear? I am divine. I am whole. I am not broken. I am not in fragments. I don't have a reason to regret. I don't have to have a reason to fear anything. Am I clear? If I am clear, my days of worrying, crying, weeping, fearing, etc. are over. I will never again cry. If this is a certain inner experience, then the job is done. So Yashaha is not to be taken in a cheap sense of how my name will come on newspapers, my video will come on TV channels, etc. That's all cheap. So Shankaracharya says here, after giving some word meanings which he has to do. All right, here, uh, what came newly meaning as compared with the first slide, is while the title slide only said Yashaha Bhavami, Yashasam Yashaha Bhavami, in the mantra in its full it says Brahmananam Yasho Bhava, Rajnam Yasho Bhava, which means Kshatriyanam Yasho. Visham Yasho Bhavami. Visham means Vanijam. Vanijam means Vaishyanam. Vit Vishav Vishaha, Visham Vishav Vishaha is another word for Vaishya, Vaishya, Vaishyaha, Vaishyam, Vaishya, Vaishyan, etc. Visham Yashoham Anuprapatsi. I wish to gain, I wish to attain. Well, he or she is all set. So this is how one feels about oneself when one is all set to rise to those heights. But what is this? Suddenly Varnas have come into the picture. We have Chatur Varnya, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And Shudra is not mentioned here. So to give a liberal interpretation, you see, in life, there are certain glories. If one is excellent in knowledge, if one is excellent in certain superior philosophical insights, one is excellent in being able to stay calm. Shamo dama tapa shaucham shantirarjavameva cha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma svabhavajam, says Sri Krishna, describing certain personality traits. So whether one is born into Shudra or Brahmana or Vaishya or Kshatriya or black or white or European or Australian, one is a woman or man, the liberal interpretation, don't worry about your family, your descent, but what is your personality? So in the Brahminical personality, which is possible for somebody born in Timbuktu, which is a city in Africa, as you know, somebody born in Fiji Island of New Zealand or Australia, who are not in the Hindu social setting at all. So don't connect it with particular family background, personality type. All over the world and in our own country too, irrespective of the family background, from nowhere have risen excellent women and men. Some of them have displayed glories of the Brahminical personality, where knowledge and certain calmness, etc., are the hallmarks. Some have excelled in Kshatriya personality, where their ability to not only see what is fair, what is just, but to fight for justice, fearlessly, to have certain shaurya, virya, and so on. Then there is also human excellence in the personality type of traders, businessmen. You find some people rise in finance world, and it is a gross mistake to look at business people as going after money for themselves. They may make money. That is one side of the story. But the business people actually contribute so much to the economy of the whole country, eventually for the whole world. They are able to display certain eminence, certain greatness in the way they go about their enterprises. There may be a little dark side to many businessmen who might have broken some rules, who might have sometimes taken shortcuts. That's different matter. But if you see how Tatas or Birlas, Ambanis or Narayana Murthy's, Azim Premji or so many more in our country, India, and likewise abroad, the challenges they met, the problems they solved, and so on can inspire anyone. So there is a lady in Mumbai called Geeta Piramal. She wrote several volumes on successful business people of our India. She wrote a book called Business Mughals, another Business Maharajas, another voluminous book, another business something else, business samrats or something. So she covered how Tatas, Birlas, Kaitans, or Munjals. There are so many. Even among the computer companies, many of them later on launched their own universities. Shiv Nadar, a Tamilian, goes to New Delhi, sets up Hindustan Computers Limited. Eventually, there is a Shiv Nadar University, and there's a lot of charity, there's a lot of services offered to the society. So there is a certain glory when you see those who are good in enterprises, then contributing to the wealth of the society. Why is Shudra not mentioned? Shudra is included in all these three. Somebody who might be, to begin with, a little bit lost, having no direction. Once she or he gets a direction, gets inspired, these three are the forms of excellence. Brahmananam yashaha, Rajnam yashaha, Isham yashaha. Therefore, all humanity has access to, if not all three of them, if not two of them, to one of them. Every human being can tap his own potential to accomplish Brahma yashaha, Kshatra yashaha, or Vaishya yashaha. And here is the aspiration: I will attain all these three. That is, rather than specifically going after any of these, it indicates the tremendous energy, sattvic energy. I can, I will. Finally, God's will makes this lady or man accomplish in some area, maybe not all areas. The second part is where I want to quote Adi Shankara especially. What is the second part, or you may even call it third part of this mantra? Shetam adatkam shetam, linduma abhigam. This has some grammar, some little technicality, but essentially it talks about a man's weakness for women. And in this mantra, it is put in the mouth of a man, and it can be applied to women also in the context of their attraction to men. So whether man's attraction to women is the context or a woman's attraction to man, what is said here is this being attracted to the pleasures of the flesh is adatkam. Atti means it devours you. It swallows you. As the English translation we have provided says, the toothless swallower. So some technicalities are there in how these words came, but let's go on to the essential comment. Sri Shankaracharya says, this attachment of a man to a woman in the context of physical pleasures, and we can add a woman's attachment to a man in the context of physical pleasure. What I want to quote from Shankara comes here, can be so destructive, can ruin that woman or can ruin that man. For all spirituality will be destroyed if we do not learn to rise above physical level. Shankara says, Tejo bala virya vijnana dharmanam apahantra vinashaitra ityeta. If somebody continues to be attached to the pursuit of sense pleasure, then that person's, that man's or that woman's, tejaha, brilliance, valaha, inner strength, virya, inner capacities, vijnana, ability to see things rightly, see and life, understand scenarios rightly, and dharma, the capacity to continue to walk the path of righteousness. Tejo bala, virya, vijnana, dharma. These five apahantra. That attachment can be so destructive. That's what Sri Krishna says. Kamayesha, krodesha, rajoguna, samudbhavaha, mahashanaha, mahapapma, vidhyenamiha vairinam. Third chapter, Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, it devours maha-ashanaha. Here also adatkam, as the translation goes, swallows. You otherwise have so many skills, so many talents, so many gifts. You are so endowed, so wonderful. But all that would be swallowed if you have not risen above your desire for carnal pleasure. Carnal means something to do with the body. Carnal pleasures. Tejo bala virya vijnana dharmanam apahantra vinashaitra ityetata. This is not to be left like that. One has to conquer it. Therefore, the mantra says, Lindu ma bigam, Lindu ma bigam. So there also there's a little grammatical technicality, but just understand this, ma abhigam. May I not go for it anymore? May I not? So the woman or the man reciting this mantra as per the Upanishad is intensely giving to herself or himself this auto-suggestion. I should not and I will not go anymore for compromise in this matter. So, as you remember, in this 8th chapter itself, a couple of khandas before had spoken on the importance of brahmacharya. Satya, ahimsa and brahmacharya, all three are cardinal values. Anyone who plays with even one of them will pay very heavily for that fault. And the Upanishads at various places highlight Satya or Brahmacharya or Ahimsa. And in the last mantra now of the second of the khanda of the chapter of the Upanishad itself, we shall see Ahimsa being touched upon. Tadha etad brahma prajapataye uvacha. There is also here also first part, second part. In the first part, a little mention is made of how all this great wisdom came down. Chaturmukha Brahma gave it to Prajapati. Prajapati in that case could be Hiranyagarbha, a certain divine principle. Prajapati gave it to Manu. Manu gave it to his children, Prajabhyaha, and then it went to more and more receptive, fit, eligible students across the world. Acharya Kulad, Vedamaditya, and over thousands and thousands of years, even to this day, the tradition continues. People learn from gurus, Gurukula, Acharya Kula. They study the Veda. yatha vidanam. And they study in a certain tradition which has been carried on for all those thousands of years. And this mantra has a very special line. Karmati sheshena. Karma atishesha means when a student is in a Gurukula, his first priority is to do Guru's work. Guru karma is done first. Then karma atishesha. After doing Guru's karma, what remains? What time remains? In that time, he catches up with the study to be taken up. First priority is the seva and then studies. And then he comes back, samavartana, abhisamavritya. After 12 years, let us say in the Gurukula, comes back, marries, kutumbe, shuchaudeshe, and continues the wonderful lifestyle that he had in the Gurukula. So he continues to study Vedas. He continues to spare time, save time for the associated sadhanas. Swadhyayam adhiyanaha dharmikan vidadat. So the students of Gurukula, though they have come back, they have married, they have a couple of children maybe, but nothing stops them from spending some hours in dedicating themselves to dharma. They create dharmikas, their sons, their daughters, their students, vidadat, making them dharmikas. And in the process, atmani sarvendriyani sampratishthapya, they also go on rising in self-control. They realize their shortcomings, but they say, I will overcome them. If not overnight, which is not possible, by repeated effort. As Sri Krishna says in the Gita, chapter 6, Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena gೃಹ್ಯತೆ. Ahimsan. See, the previous mantra had made space for brahmacharya. Now this makes some room for ahimsa. Ahimsan sarva bhutani. Not hurting anybody in your work. Don't injure anyone. Cause the least discomfort. Because zero violence is impossible. So only when necessary. Anyatra tirthebhyaha. The word tirtha here means certain activities, certain religious or secular activities, where some amount of injury is unavoidable. Tirtha Shabda has that unusual meaning. Otherwise, you may understand Tirtha means pilgrim centers, and partly that meaning also is acceptable. You know why? In pilgrim centers, sometimes there are some rituals where, to say the least, a certain ritual may lead to a lot of smoke going all over, and that smoke may hurt insects in the air. But you go ahead with the Vaidika karma. So, or some other ways. But interestingly, Tirtha Shabda, as Sri Shankaracharya says, the word Tirtha can mean, read that expression, Ahimsan, himsam, parapidam, akurvan, sarvabhutani, stavara jangamani, bhutani, apidayan. Pidayan means causing injury to them. Apidayan, then Tirtha. I'm coming to it now. Tirtham Nama, says Shankara Bhashya. Tirtham Nama, what Tirtha means is Shastra Anujna Vishaya. Some activities, some rituals, some duties in human life where Shastra has given Anujna. Shastra has permitted. Simple example, which is partly Laukika, secular, and partly Vaidika, religious, is drawing honey from honeycombs. From time immemorial, honey is drawn, Laukika, for our own consumption. Honey is drawn Vedika. In certain rituals, to make some panchamrita, to make certain, for some abhisheka, you have to give abhisheka with honey. That's the rule. Shastra Anujna. Shastra says you may disturb those bees. There is some himsa there. Therefore, there are some areas where Shastra says this may be done. Sri Krishna himself says in the 18th chapter, any work under the sun has some injury, some harm, some fault in it. Sarvaramba hi doshena dhumen agnirivavritaha sahajam karma kaunteya sadosham api natyajet. There is a shloka starting with sahajam karma kaunteya. Like wherever there is fire, there will be some smoke. No matter in what profession you are a lawyer, you are a chartered accountant, you are a doctor, you are an engineer, you are a guru, you are a spiritual teacher. No field of work is spared. Wherever you go, unknowingly, sometimes knowingly, you will hurt some people. Can't help. Sarvarambaha doshena avritaha yatha dhumena agnihi avritaha. All right. So, ahimsan sarva bhutani. And the last part of the mantra is Sakalu evam vartayan yavadayusham. Couple of words are said, giving us certain guidance about how we must live. We must live understanding and following the Shastra injunctions. Then, if we live rightly all our life, yavadayusham, brahmalokam visampadyate. Every one of us can reach great heights, those realms, those regions, those spheres of consciousness which are unbelievably high, and then na punaravartate, na cha punaravartate. Saying twice, it indicates the section and the chapter and the whole Upanishad comes to an end. Therefore, in this last class, we have seen the power of aspiration, importance of brahmacharya, importance of ahimsa, and how we can go to the heights. You have another slide also where the translation is given. Let me read the last line. Then withdrawing all his organs into self, not injuring any creatures other than what is prescribed in the scriptures, living in this way to the end of his life or her life, he or she attains the world of Brahma. She or he does not return again. She or he does not return again. Upanishads are not just insights into metaphysical truths, but they are a lot of rich guidance on how we may live a virtuous life. Therefore, really, Upanishads do touch upon both Brahma and Dharma. Brahma Vidya and Yoga Shastra are both covered, but the unique contribution of Upanishads is Brahma Vidya. We may say this. Om Namah Paramara Siddho, Namah Paramara Siddha.